What is up, everybody? This is the Perfectly Blended Podcast, Season 5, Episode number 7. Today, we're actually going to be talking about, are you actually owning your side in your marriage? And that's coming up
I know I am. Right now.
right now. Thank you so much for joining us on the Perfectly Blended Podcast. This podcast is for blended families, for couples that want to strengthen their marriage and want a brighter future. Perfectly Blended exists to break the stigma of divorce, drop the shame and guilt holding you back, and equip marriages to thrive instead of just survive. We believe all that is possible in this life is based on the power of Jesus Christ and his ability to restore us fully. Let's dive in. What is up? What is up, everybody? Welcome to today's show. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, and I'm here with the always wonderful, beautiful, great, pleasant, awesome Christy.
I don't know about the pleasant part.
Yeah,
Always.
She's pleasant. She pleasant. So today we're actually going to be talking about, are you owning your own side in your marriage? And this is going to be fun. I'm not going to say that. What you say? I'm not going to say it. She's going to say it.
Usually because he is, let's be honest, he's the funner one.
Whoa.
In our relationship. So it's true. And usually if it's something like a really fun idea of like family fun night, something fun to do, or a game that he just makes up, that's usually him. I'm usually the rule one or the process one, right? So today we were talking about it and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, why don't we do something really fun? I'm like, we can each write down, because we were going to talk about, are you owning your part of, the marriage? And I'm like, why don't you write down the things that you feel like you've owned and gotten better at, and I'll write down my things that I've owned. And then each of us will write down the 3 things we think the other one is going to say, or if they don't say it, they're wrong. Just for fun.
Me, I'll be wrong. I'm the wrong
Just for fun. And so I'm excited about it, and I'm proud of it because I think it's fun.
Yeah, and this episode really is about taking personal responsibility within your relationship. And, we want to put a fun twist on it because, well, it's supposed to be fun, right? We're supposed to make this fun. So it is, though. It really is about taking personal responsibility. We talk about it all the time about, having less fingers pointing at people and having more thumbs pointing at yourself. What is it that I'm taking responsibility for in my marriage? It's easy to be in a relationship with somebody and constantly blame them or look at them or point out their stuff that they're not doing right and all of these things. It's easy to get into that flow of those things, but it's harder to start taking on responsibility and saying, okay, what is it that Josh needs to change? So I think this one's going to be fun today. So I'm going to let you kick it right off today.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Break it, woman.
Oh, man. We're already going out of sync like we normally do.
That's right.
I don't even know what to do with myself.
She doesn't even know. She's not prepared.
Yes, I am.
Okay, she's prepared.
Okay, so what do you want me to start with? What I feel like you have grown?
It is your life. I'm just breathing your air. You do anything you want.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about, I'm making the rules then today.
Oh, I love the rules.
I am going to talk about the 3 areas that I feel like I have grown in. And then I want you to share what 3 areas you listed about that I've grown in. And then we'll get to you. Okay,
so let me re-clarify to make sure I'm on the right page here. You're going to list the 3 things that...
I'm talking about me.
Yep, that you are going to list the 3 things that you've grown in, and then you want me to list the 3 things
then you
that
talk about me.
I think that you...
Yep. I talk about me, you talk about me.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so number 1. I am not as quick to blow up or shut down like I used to. I try to stay open and listen. I'm not perfect at it, but I definitely don't blow up like I used to at all. I used to, when him and I first got together, if I was getting mad, I'd like blow up or I'd completely just quit talking to him, or in the very beginning, I would just leave. Number 2 is that I really have worked on, because I was one of them women like, no man's going to tell me what to do. And I really have grown, and
you're not like that no more.
I'm not.
No, you've changed a lot.
Not 100%.
It's going
But
to get
I've
an honorable mention, okay? That's what we're going to get.
I've gotten a lot better at allowing him to be the leader and the man of
Yes.
the home.
Yes.
I've gotten a lot better,
Yes.
which can even be hard for me because, as Josh can attest, my kids a lot of the times text him before they text me.
It's safer with me. They're not going to get punched in the throat.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the third one, I saved the best for last.
Here we go.
It's kind of funny too, now that we're past it. But I used to not want him, and this is seriously serious. Okay, it's funny when I read it out loud.
I know what this is.
I used to not want him to go anywhere or do anything without me because I was so fearful that if he ever realized what he could get, then he wouldn't want me. Which, of course, is an insecurity of my behalf that I needed to work on.
Which is, from my perspective, that's completely silly and ridiculous.
But I didn't want him to go anywhere or do anything without me.
Yeah.
Nothing. I didn't even like him grocery shopping without me. I wanted him to stay in the home as a hermit until I got home and was able to go out with him. Which was true.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. Okay.
Okay, now you do me.
All right. So one of the things that I think you've really embraced hugely and with yourself within our marriage is your level of vulnerability. I think your level of vulnerability to allow me to see you for who you are and not be afraid of that has been a huge thing that you've taken on as your personal responsibility, because you're not good because you have been hurt so many times in the past by men, like basically every guy you've ever been around. And it's taken you a lot to be vulnerable to the level of allowing me to see you at your weakest point. And so I think that's a huge responsibility you've taken on.
Yeah. I agree.
So I want to see it. Okay. So, and this kind of goes with this one a little bit, but I want to talk about it. You have increased your level of trust with me, like 1,000%.
That would go with my number 3.
Yeah. I'm not saying some of them aren't going to agree with yours.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of them are going to agree. Right. I mean, I could rip off a whole bunch right now, but you want me to keep it concise. So I want to try and keep it concise because these are big ones, right? So trust has been a major thing with us in our relationship.
Yeah.
So this has been a huge responsibility with you. I mean, I know I've done my part, but you have more than done your part on gaining more trust within our relationship, and then appreciating our differences that we have.
Yeah.
Because we are very different in certain ways, and you don't get as frustrated about those differences nor near as much as you used to.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah. All right. And I do have a couple honorable mentions. Her patience has come a long way.
And that's really sad, people. It's really sad, actually, that he even would say that, because I am still an impatient person. So I'm so glad that it came a long way.
My second honorable mention is her driving etiquette, which goes hand in hand with patience. So if you ever drive in a car with her, you'll never not want to do that again. So she is not a friendly driver, and she can't keep an armed weapon on her in the car because she would think she's in Mario Kart.
My cheeks are red.
Those are my two honorable mentions for you. So.
All right.
Okay, so my turn?
You go.
Okay, so my go, right? So
yeah.
3 things that I think that I've embraced in my responsibility since we've been together. I think one of the biggest ones for me, at least this is what I think, is my outward showing of love to you in verbal and physical, right? Touch, and I know it's probably more of an honorable mention, but to me, right? So we're asking about what I think is my outward showing of love, because that's extremely hard for me. I've never been that way. My family isn't real lovey-dovey, touchy. My mom and I probably more than anybody say we love each other, but it's even sporadic at the highest level. So
no, I think it's important to do these lists with people, like in your marriage, to do this list, because I want it so much that I wouldn't have given him the credit for that. And he's right, though. So him bringing it up on the list, I'm like, no, he's absolutely right, because he used to really not do it at all. Yeah. And he really makes an effort. And sometimes you have to look at your spouse and be grateful for the effort that they put in. And he really puts in an effort and really tries, because it's not in his normal character to do that, to go above and beyond. So anyway, I wanted to get that little bit in because you should as a couple.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is funny, right? Because maybe, it's a difference in love languages too, which is, something we have to always constantly work on.
Right.
And to me, out of all these things, I think that's the one I've improved the most on. But it doesn't mean that she feels as though it's the one I've improved the most on, which is kind of a cool thing, right? I mean,
it is.
It's interesting though.
Yeah.
Okay, so my second thing is my ability to be vulnerable. I think has been a big responsibility of mine because I have been super insecure about certain things about my life. We were just talking about this just recently about being a stay-at-home dad and embracing that. And, I've learned to embrace those types of things. I mean, I still am, insecure about my age and, we talk about these things, but I'm much more open about it and talk about it much more now within our relationship. I don't try to hide it.
Correct.
Or avoid it, so my level of vulnerability, I think, has really changed a lot, a lot. And I really think, probably my third biggest is my responsibility to lead. Is in the beginning, you really were a strong leader and you knew how to lead me from the back until I decided to pick it up and start doing it, which I think is very typical of non-Christian men becoming Christian men.
Yeah.
And I really believe and feel like I've really tried to embrace this leading within our family. So that's my 3.
Okay, my turn.
Okay, here we go. Cool. These are all honorable mentions.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Okay. All right, let's go.
Like I said earlier, I think it's very important for in your marriage to own your part. So this is just the second part that we're doing just for fun. So Josh has grown. My 3 that I'm saying that you've grown the most in is number 1 is you don't try to manipulate situations or outcomes or try to sell me on things. You've changed your approach.
That's very good.
So when him and I first started communicating in our relationship, a lot of the times he would be selling me on his way until I gave in, typically, or wore me down. And
try to manipulate.
After we got talking about it, he just wanted to make sure that he was heard. He wanted to ensure that I understood the point that he was coming from. Sometimes he was trying to manipulate the outcome. But he did change his approach a lot. I don't feel like he does that anymore at all, actually. Number 2, allows me to do something ahead of time and I'm wrong. Like I'm wrong. And he knows that I'm wrong. And instead of trying to stop me, like in the beginning of our relationship, he would be like, he'd want to argue with me about it. That's where I'm like, don't try to sell me. I know I'm right. All this stuff. He consistently in conversations or actually doing something or talking about something, he does not argue. He's like, okay, all right. And then come a week later, 2 weeks later, even that same within the next 10 or 15 minutes, and I talk myself full circle. I realize I am wrong. Okay. He doesn't say anything to me. He just allows me to do it. Like I start arguing with him about it. He's like, okay. And he doesn't say nothing. And then I come back and I'm like, oh man, I realize what you were saying now. I was completely wrong on that. And he's like, But he doesn't ever say, he's never said, never, even from the beginning when I was wrong. We've never thrown into each other's face, I told you so. Yeah, so that's never been a thing. So the third one, similar to mine, I saved the best for last.
Yeah, here we go.
You are way better at being vulnerable and talking to me about the things that you're struggling with.
Yeah.
That's the top one, I think, because he never used to talk to me about what was going on with him.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I wanted to talk about this in marriages, this is how beautiful God has designed marriages. So I feel the reason why recently in the last year or two, he has gotten more comfortable at being vulnerable with me is because I was insecure, a lot more insecure in our relationship and was constantly questioning him and not wanting to go out or anything. And I have gotten more confident now in our relationship, which has allowed him, without us talking about it, allowed him to psychologically feel safer with the ability to be more vulnerable to me. Because men don't want to add burden to us. They want to support us and carry the burden.
Yep.
So it is beautiful because as I was being untrustworthy, I was not trusting when we first got together. Him allowing me to question him all the time, talk about all these things, him never getting upset about with me, answering questions whenever I needed to, allowed to build that trust for me to feel safe, work through my own insecurities. As I started getting stronger now personally and emotionally in our relationship, it's allowed him to feel safer to be vulnerable. And that is something that has naturally progressed now in our relationship as we've grown individually and together.
Yeah, I feel like, I remember having conversations years ago. We would have conversations about how, we would get in arguments or whatever, and she'd be like, "You just don't let me in. I can tell. You're just not letting me in." And I'd be like, "Yeah, I am." And to me, I was, right?
Yeah.
And I'm getting goosebumps right now. And I just wasn't ready for that. So I really feel like, and I appreciate she's saying the best one for last, but I feel like that one's more like her patience, right? Like I've come a long way, but I have a long way to go with it. Like I'm just now starting to come into my own with some of the vulnerabilities. Like I've always been such a good salesperson, even to myself. Over
Oh my
the years.
gosh, you're so good with yourself.
I am, right? And I sell myself so well on things that I can actually convince myself when I'm being vulnerable about I'm being vulnerable. Like, because I'm going 80% of the way, and that's good, and I can fool everybody and myself about it. But in all reality, I'm not. The extra 20% is really the 80% of the stuff. Like, and that's the truth, right? So, we've had to experience some things in our marriage, even over the last few years. That's really like I need to put up or shut up and be vulnerable and be like open and honest about like the way that I feel and all these things, and I really feel like it's brought us closer together. It's given Christy an opportunity to carry a different role within our marriage, because of that, which is what I'm supposed to do. I mean, we are partners, right? I don't have a specific, position in this family to where I'm like, I have to be always the strong one. Like, that's a fallacy within marriage. And we don't want people, if you're watching right now, we don't want you to think like you have to always be strong if you're the man, right? Or the woman, always has to be the one that's supportive. Like it doesn't always have to be that way. We have to be and understand our weaknesses and our responsibilities. And sometimes as we grow, those things change.
So, yes. Right? And that is how beautiful, though, marriages work. Like, if you each are trying to grow and trying to be better individually, get stronger, work on your shortcomings and insecurities and those things, while the other one is offering you grace. So Josh needed to work on being vulnerable and needed to work on things, but I wasn't hounding him and nagging him about it. I would talk to him about it. Yeah. We would have healthy conversations, but then vice versa. If you keep that flow going in your relationship and you are trying to grow, you guys actually start and are growing together at the same time. And what happens is, as like I wrote down, I got stronger emotionally as a person. And so I was so broken and so untrusting and so independent, though, because I didn't want to get hurt, right? Which is an insecurity. So by not allowing my husband really to come in or to care for me or to me to trust him, like fully, to have the capability. So what I wanted to point out, though, is that by us doing this, what actually was happening is I was praying. I talked about it in the last couple podcasts now, and I think it's just because it's gotten such a big impact on me, is I'm really, really beginning to understand, thank God for his patience with me, that I am not to trust Josh. I'm to trust God. And by me putting our marriage in God's hands and by me talking to him about God, about the things that I need to work on, and Josh praying about the things he needs to work on, and then praying for each other, praying with each other. I mean, this is 11 years in the making, and our relationship is just so good. It doesn't mean we don't have arguments. It doesn't mean we don't have disagreements. I mean, we just had disagreement last week about something, but they're very healthy. There's no yelling. There's no name calling.
Yep.
There's patience and there's love and there's frustration and a respect that you're allowed to be upset. I'm allowed to be upset. Yeah. We're both upset. Let's talk through this in a healthy way. All of that has come so far in the 11 years, and it's because we've each I can't even talk about it enough because it's so beautiful. That's how God designed your marriage.
Yep.
Is as
I agree.
you're growing and your spouse is growing, you're literally becoming one, growing together like this. And it's, you really complement each other, but you need to be able to talk about things like this. Like, how much do you think, what are the areas that you think I've grown in? Because, and then him tell me what are the areas, and then I tell him, well, I think you've grown in these areas, and see how they compare. Because he brought up my patience. I don't think, I mean, I wouldn't give me any credit in my patience at all. Like, none.
Yeah.
So,
but I think too, what was one of mine?
I think it comes down to me yelling and stuff, though. I don't do that anymore. So that has to do with patience.
No, you don't. But like I said something about my outward love. Like, that's a struggle for you to even say that I'm better in that.
Yeah.
But because you care about me and you understand
that you try,
you're willing to take the perspective of me instead of saying, nope, you suck at that because it doesn't fill my tank enough. And I think that's what's important to hear from this too. Like, Christy's not trying to be like, no, you need to take that one off the list, bash my face over it, right? Because there's no value for her in that. Because if I feel defeated in that, why would I want to keep trying after 11 years, right? And to me, I try really hard at that, but but that means I need to try even harder. And so this is how this is supposed to work, right? This is how this encouragement is supposed to work both ways. And we can't sit and just bash each other about it or say, you're just never going to change, using absolutes, right? Like never or ever, like you never do this. You've always done this, it's never happened. And it's changing the way that you take responsibility in your marriage. It really does.
But let's be honest, though. You also have to, he does try, and I know that he tries real hard, and I know that is a weakness of his. But then also, is my tank ever capable of being fulfilled? Ever? Like, that's something that I have to ask myself.
No.
Yes, he could. It's not, I don't think.
Yeah.
I really don't. And it's not that he can't try more. He could. We don't hold hands enough. I mean, as our relationship has progressed, we used to say all the time, we don't sit separately when we're in the living room.
Yep.
We sit next to each other, so we're touching. We don't hardly ever do that. We talk about it like, hey, we sit separate. We need to get better. Yes, we do. And then that's it.
We'll do it and then not do it. And then we'll do it for a small period of time and then not do it.
I would say it's like 5% or 1% of the time. That's how bad we are at it. We sit across the room from each other the majority of the time. And so it's like, yeah, he could get better at it, but I could also help him with that. And then also recognize he can never make it enough, but that doesn't mean I don't want him to stop.
Yeah.
And I think in a relationship, it's hard to say you are kind of scared. Like, I don't want to tell my husband, like, well, my tank's probably never capable of being filled.
Right.
Because then what do most guys do? I'm not going to do it at all then.
Yeah.
And that's typically what happens. And so it's like, you have to have a healthy conversation. Like, I want you to continue trying. I do want you to try more, because we don't touch enough. We don't, we don't show affection to each other enough.
Yeah.
We don't, but we don't want to have an unrealistic expectation either. Expectations in marriage can be, especially unspoken ones, can be detrimental to your relationship.
Yeah, and I think it's important that people understand, like, when we start working on taking responsibility in our marriage, maybe you've have a real rough background in your marriage. Maybe you had some years where things were really brutal, right? Where nasty things were said, things were done that you feel like were crossed the line. Maybe these things have happened, right? But we have to understand the way that God has designed our marriage to be. And if we look at our lives the way that Jesus looks at our lives and says, I don't see the past, I see today and I see moving forward. And we have to understand and embrace that. It makes it way easier for us to embrace our responsibility, right? Because I don't want to feel like anything that I do in my marriage for my wife is a waste of time. Like, I don't want to feel that way. Right. I want to feel like every ounce that I put in, even if it feels insignificant, that it's going to matter.
Yeah.
And if you have enough water under the bridge, you can get the feeling, you can get into a position to where you're almost indifferent in your marriage. And you're like, yeah, I've done this 711 times. I'm not doing it another time. And we have to erase that way of thinking, because your marriage will absolutely not get any better. We play this game where we think, I'm just going to hope that tomorrow gets better. And then maybe if I wake up tomorrow, things will just magically be better. And it doesn't work that way. And the only way that things will change is not making your partner change. It's about you changing.
Mm-hmm.
It's about taking your own personal responsibility and at one point having a healthy conversation like this in front of public and saying, we'd had no clue what we were going to write down, but I didn't fear it. I don't fear it.
No, and I actually thought that earlier. I'm like, when I told him that and I started like making my list, I actually thought to myself, I'm like, what's so fun is that I'm not scared about anything that he's going to say, because even if he said something like, Christy really needs to work on this, I have self-awareness and know he loves me. He's not malicious. He's not saying anything malicious. He's not saying anything that I shouldn't know if I'm a healthy person. And I don't fear it at all. I don't. I think it's fun. And we can talk about stuff. Josh and I can talk about our shortcomings. Josh and I can talk about real feelings about our each other's step kids, each other's bio kids. Like we can really, that's why I say our relationship's so strong. Let's just start with that. If people tell you my marriage is so strong, what that means is we can talk. Our communication is solid. Yeah. It doesn't mean we don't argue. It doesn't mean we don't have disagreements. But our communication style is healthy, it's respectful, it's honest, it's truthful, it's vulnerable, it's safe.
That's a checklist.
And that is why I say that our marriage is strong. Because our communication is on point when it comes to
We're deliberate with it, though.
Yeah.
We don't let things
your relationship needs to be that way.
It has to be. You have to say, you know what? I want intentionality in my marriage at all points. And it has to begin with communication. And communication starts with responsibility. Right? I can't let this lie. Or I'm going to let this go for a little while, right, to see if it rebounds, because that's okay too.
Because we don't have to address every single little thing every time it comes up.
Right. And I think as a female, you can respect that more than anything, because Christy doesn't want to be the nitpicker.
I don't.
But she wants to be the nitpicker. Yeah. And so she can understand the value in that, right? And I know that well enough about that. It's really funny, like just side thing real quick, right? So in our relationship, I call Christy woman, right? And certain ladies do not like that.
I love it.
Because, and she loves it. But you see, the thing is, I could call Christy anything that I want, because Christy doesn't fear the things I'm going to call her ever going to be negative or intended for bad, for harm for her, right? And that's something that we've created within our relationship. So our verbal communication is healthy.
It's like Mufasa. He's like, woman. I'm like, ooh, say it again.
You know? But it is, right? It's that way. You know, we call each other's kids, we call them step kids, right? And some people are like, oh, you mean bonus kids? Like, whatever. Like, we don't care.
It's not bad. It's not a derogatory term in our house.
It's not. And our communication level, though, has risen to make sure that these things are appropriate. If I feel like something is being said to Christy that Christy doesn't like, Christy will make sure to tell me, and I won't do it again. And we've done that. Years ago, towards the beginning of our relationship, she called me a punk, and I said to her, please don't do that. I don't like that. It makes me feel inferior. I don't appreciate that. And never, not one time in the last 11
because that's
years.
Actually a word I used to use messing around. Like even with my boys, I'd be like, you punk, you know? And so I said it to him playfully, you know, joking around, because that was just a regular term with me and my boys. And he did not like that. And we've done a podcast on this before. Like, you need to respect your spouse's like triggers. Like, is that something that was used derogatory to them in the past? I don't need to look at him at that time and be like, you just need to get over it. No, because it's not important for me to say that word or not say that word. What's important is for him to not feel the way that he feels regarding that trigger. So to me, it's no big deal. Like, I just won't say it again. So I want to go back really quick. So when Josh was saying, you know, if you already have unhealthy habits in your marriage, it's not too late to start now. Josh said a quote to me the other day that I had forgotten about, and it's a very powerful quote and puts things in perspective. Like, when's the best time to plant a tree? 40 years ago. Okay, when's the second best time to plant a tree? Today. And that is the way that your marriage is. Like, when's the best time to start healthy communication in your marriage? Before you get married. Like, establish those. Yeah. But when's the second best time? Now.
Today.
Now. So don't feel like it's a lost cause. Don't you guys can turn things around on a dime with God. Like, God can do anything.
So there's two, so I want to challenge her and see if she can get this right, okay? Uh-oh. I know. So there's two things both of us have embraced in our relationship and taken personal responsibility for. Two individual things. I want to see if,
I have my own two.
I want to see if ours are if you guess the same, okay? And it's pretty broad, right? It's pretty broad. So
two things.
Two things that we've done in
So
our relationship.
Me too, you too.
But it's the same.
Okay.
It's the two.
Say it again.
Yours is your two and my two are the exact same.
Gosh,
okay. So I want you to guess them.
Okay, tell me again. Ask me.
Okay, what are the two things that we've embraced and have taken personal responsibility for in our marriage, in our lives, in the last 11 years? It's made the biggest difference.
Oh my gosh.
Two things. No? Am I throwing you off?
Yeah, because I want to say like we're able to talk honestly about our kids. Like me.
But why?
The way I feel about my stepkids and the way that he feels about his stepkids.
But higher level than that. That's deep. Like higher level.
Higher level.
So you want me to say?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I was hoping she would be able to discuss it. Okay. So
no, I failed now. We're going to fight about this later.
This isn't a fail. I just was curious.
We're fighting.
She's going to be like, oh, that, right? So you ready for it? Number one, personal growth.
Oh, yeah.
We've embraced personal growth in all aspects.
Because we're both recovering alcoholics and we've done a 12-step program. So.
We have, but we've embraced personal growth, not just marriage growth, but personal growth. And then we've each embraced a deeper personal relationship with Jesus, a faith walk.
Oh, very. And those are actually two of the most important things.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I was meaning by higher level. Like we're talking more about the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, because I want to be a better person than him. So I want my personal growth to far exceed his personal growth.
She already is.
I want to be more patient than him. I want to be funnier than him. I want to be more excellent than him.
She is at times, people. Okay, she is at times.
So we have a healthy competition in our relationship because I want to be a better human being than my husband. And he is the most amazing human. I tell everyone this all the time. He is the most amazing human I have ever met in my life, hands down, bar none. He accepts every single human being he comes in contact with exactly where they are at that moment. He doesn't try to change them. He doesn't give unsolicited advice. He's funny. He's patient. He's outgoing. I want to be better than him.
You are better than me.
Thank you.
You're driven. You're kind. You're loving on deeper levels than anybody. You have an amazing sense of humor. She knows how to compliment women. Okay, a woman complimenting another woman it's
rare.
It's like the great white buffalo. Okay, it's just you don't see it, right? It doesn't happen. It is rare, and you embrace that about yourself.
Yeah,
and you embrace who you are.
Yeah,
and she's one of the most amazing leaders that I know, and not just as a female, but period. Like ask anybody she works with, they'll tell you. She's incredible at what she does because she cares at depths more than anybody I've ever met in my life. And to do that all with the way that she was raised in her life and the thing that's happened to her, she's a better person than me. I win in that aspect. But it's true. And it's, and that's the point of how are we taking personal responsibility? Are you personally growing? What is your personal growth strategy? Like, what are you doing personally?
I want to put you on the spot now.
To grow, boy. And then your faith, right? I just want to talk about those two things real quick.
No,
and then what are you doing about your faith? What are you doing about growing your personal faith, right? That's personal. You want to make the biggest impact in your relationship, it's personal. And I believe that. And I think you do too.
I do too. Yeah. That is the most important things. So I want to put you on the spot now then.
Okay.
Okay, because I don't even know what I'm going to say. So I don't, I don't.
I don't know how I'm going to respond then.
No, I mean, I know the question.
Oh.
But
see, she's funny.
Not on purpose.
Okay, go.
So what's 3 things that you need to continue to work on?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This sounds like fun.
No, seriously, because we're honest. We're telling people
Yeah,
we're honest.
no, I don't.
I'll go.
Vulnerability.
You go then.
I don't know.
Go.
Stacey's what's yup? What is yup supposed to mean? I don't even know what that's supposed to mean.
I'm a better person than you.
Yeah, because Stacey loves you the most. She's always looking. Love my Christy. Yeah, she does. Okay, we got it, Stacey. We get it. We understand.
I love her.
So 3 things that I need to continue to work on.
The 3 things that you still like. Probably the biggest 3 things that you feel like you still need to work on.
Struggle.
In our marriage or on yourself. I don't care.
Okay. I mean, number 1 is being vulnerable. I think that's a huge struggle for me. Mm-hmm. I have to continue to do that. Number 2 is trying not to know everything, but I think that's just because of being insecure. I think I really need to work on not trying to act like or assume that I know everything or I have to be the person.
Or tell everybody everything so they think that you know.
Right. Maybe I should just let you tell me. And that's the second thing. And then, I don't know, the third thing I need to work on is probably my eating habits and physical sense. Like
Oh, that's sweet.
those things.
I'm taking that one. Okay.
Whoa.
I'm taking that one.
You're exchanging one? Out of your 3?
No, I only had 2.
You were throwing 3 at me?
I'm trying to think. I was trying to think.
Oh, man.
I couldn't think of something.
Setting me up for failure. That's what she's doing. See? She's trying to win.
I'm
Shame
lumping
on
these.
you.
Hey, technically I have 3. I'm lumping 2 in one.
Oh, here we go.
So I need to continue to work on my patience along with my driving because my driving is very bad. I feel I'm driving my son to driving school tonight. And on the way there, I am like, oh my gosh, what is the matter with this person? Oh my gosh, this person needs to get out of my way. Well, does this person not know where their gas is? And I'm like, I need to calm down because my son is going to be like, my mom's going to be yelling at me like this when I'm driving. So I have to be conscious of that stuff. So anyway, I need to definitely work on my driving. That's not to be funny. That's serious because my road rage is getting
bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's
I don't
dangerously
cuss or anything, but I'm angry.
No,
Like my
it's
level of rage. You don't need to cuss when you have rage like mine inside me.
You can't even have a conversation with you in the car anymore.
No,
It's
I know.
bad.
It's bad. It is bad. So anyway, if my work is listening, I don't have that in my work card. Okay. So
She needs tinted windows. She's telling everybody they're number 1.
No, I don't.
I'm kidding.
So the second thing is my patience and my driving is one. The second thing is I definitely need to get better with my self-talk. So
true.
I'm trying to, I've actually, even just in the last month, I've become more self-aware when it comes to how I'm talking to myself, the level of standard that I'm holding myself at. For example, I was driving out of our subdivision today to take Graydon to driver's ed. And I was driving by someone's garage that they had open, and they have their garage. They just use it as a storage area. I mean, everything's piled out in the garage, like lumped up and everything. And I don't think like that person's such a bad, I don't think that. I think like, oh my gosh, like how embarrassed I would be if my garage looked like that, and I would beat myself up about it, and I would tell myself I was a loser. And
Hope they're not listening.
I recognized but that's fine. Like it's okay if your garage is like that. And that's the thing I recognized in my head. Like the thing I need to get better at is that if my house isn't spick and span, if my baseboards aren't wiped off, I don't need to be looking down because I don't wipe them. I just want to look down at them and then berate myself for them because I don't get down and wipe them. So we have to like relax and give ourselves a break and to eat better because it's not about being skinny.
Yeah, I agree.
I literally feel so much better when we're working out even 10 to 15 minutes a day and eating clean.
Yeah. Yeah, simple things like that. And it's like, it's so weird because we just slam ourselves for not doing the simple things. And then we're like, we're stupid, we're lazy, we don't care.
I hold myself to an unrealistic expectation in everything. And that's embarrassing for me to talk about because I want to tell myself it's not unrealistic. It's the level you should be.
Yeah.
That like literally,
you're selling yourself like I sell myself.
Like literally me just talking about it out loud. I am like, you need to shut your sissy mouth and you need to get up to the standard that I expect you to be at. That's how I talk to myself.
Yeah. You need to wipe them baseboards.
Yeah. Like seriously.
Well, I know. And I understand like it's easy for us to pick ourselves apart.
I mean,
but these are areas of personal growth. Like we need to work on those things, right? We don't need to sit and just beat ourselves up over those. We need to sit and we need to think to ourselves, okay, how can I create a plan to move forward in these? How can I push forward to become better at these things? I don't know, man. We've listened and read so many books over the years, we don't want to focus on our weaknesses, but we want to make sure that our weaknesses aren't holding us back either.
Right.
Right. And that's an important thing. We want to focus on our strengths, but if we have weaknesses that are literally like boat anchors and we just can't get away, then we need to work on some of those things. And self-talk is a huge thing. I do it too. So, I mean, I'm glad she brought it up. These are things that we need to work on,
and don't put thought bubbles over other people's heads.
That's
either.
Big
and
one.
that is a big one for me.
That's a big one for me.
I will look at someone and I'll be like, or I'll think about someone, like if I send them a message or something, I literally have to catch myself thinking like, oh, they're probably annoyed with me, or they probably think I'm stupid, or they probably think I'm an idiot, or they probably don't like me anyway. And I'm putting thought bubbles over the person's head of what they're thinking about me that aren't even true.
See, it's funny.
They could be true, but who cares?
But see, my thought bubbles are different, and it's so weird.
Oh.
I just assume what people are thinking and not thinking about me. I could care less. So it's a little bit different with us. But I do automatically assume what people are thinking about something.
Cynical.
And that's exactly what it is. No, that's exactly what it is.
I know.
You're
Because
cynical
I know
too,
you.
But you're cynical about yourself.
No, you're cynical about other people.
I know.
Like other people are being cynical toward you.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm cynical towards myself.
Yeah.
But actually, okay, I'm really quick because I know that we got to wrap up soon. But really quick, there's been studies. There's a whole TED Talk that I watched about this, and it is so powerful, and it makes a difference in marriages too. That is the difference between men and women. Honestly, there was a woman that was like, if you ask men like how they get raises or how they like go for jobs, they will say, I just apply to it even if I don't fit all the things.
Yep.
Because they are cynical about other people being cynical. They're not cynical to themselves. You know, like I can do this. Of course I can do this.
I'll figure it out.
But women are less likely to raise their hand and things like that. They did a TED Talk on it too about how the guy's like, I'm not taking any more questions after 7 p.m., you know? And at the end, guys would raise their hands and they'd still take their questions. No women would raise their hands because women feel like they don't deserve. And it's true. It's just our psychological.
Yeah, it's the way we're built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I think taking personal responsibility, which was what this whole thing was about.
Yeah.
Taking personal responsibility in our relationship is understanding where you are as an individual in your marriage. Pointing the fingers is never a healthy thing. We did something way earlier on in our marriage where like, okay, I'm going to stop telling you what you're doing. Like, I'm going to stop telling you, like, well, this is what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Well, this is what you're doing. Remember when we did that? We decided to...
I have an example.
Oh, good. But okay, so hopefully it's a good one. And so it's important, though, that we stop telling our partners what they are and what they're doing and start looking at ourselves, okay, how can I respond to these situations? That's taking ultimate responsibility. What's your example?
Well, it's maybe not exactly then what he was talking about. But Josh has a medication because we're old. Okay, so Josh has a medication that he has to take daily. I have medications that I have to take daily now to keep ourselves balanced because we're old. So Josh has a medication that he has to take daily, and it sat there empty on the bathroom counter for a few days, right? And typically, I would be like, did you call this in? Did you do this? Did you get the thing? Did you do that? Did you drop it off? Did you pick it up? Like typically, like I stress myself out. Follow up, get it. Like he needs it. He's supposed to take it every day. Like, oh my gosh, it's going to be all, oh. And if I give myself permission to be like, I'm not going to be the one that's out of whack if I'm not taking that. He is. Mm-hmm. And he is an adult. I don't have to like stress myself out. And it actually demasculates him because it's okay to be helpful. Like, hey, I'm just reminding you, but to continue follow up all the time, that's nagging. So I literally was looking at it the other day and I'm just like, I'm not going to say anything because he knows it's there. He knows he needs to do it. I don't need to stress myself or worry about it. And then this morning I get up and yesterday he didn't tell me he was going to get it. I didn't know he was going to get it, but it was full. And he went and did it all by himself. I didn't need to tell him.
I was able to do it all by myself.
Right. And I don't have to stress myself
Took
about
my
it.
Lunch money and everything and did it.
So that's a lesson that we need to learn as, partners is we don't need to be like parenting.
Yeah. And don't sell it as being helpful.
No.
Like you're saying. It's easy to sell it as helpful.
Yeah, I seriously am a reminder type person. And the reason why I am is because I have such a bad memory that I do it a lot of times for myself too, to help me remember.
Like, we got it.
But when my helping turns into nagging, I have to recognize that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, we hope you found some value in today's episode. We want to remind you we have recently just put out a brand new workshop, marriage workshop. It's about how to avoid these 3 major mistakes if you're going into a second marriage. Even if you're early on in a second marriage, we put together, it's about 45 minutes long, and you can just click the link. I'll make sure to put it on the chat if you want to go and check it out. And other than that, I mean, do you have anything else you want to say before we close today?
No.
Nope. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.